in brightest day, in blackest night. All other podcasts tremble in fright. Losers cower before the power. Oranges lust and blues you can trust. Indigos feel and white ones heal. Yellow scare and green ones dare. That sapphire love and black hands glove will rock your foundation without hesitation. Chad and Mars face evil's might. Respect their power, for they'll make you see the light. Hi, everybody. I'm Chad Bokelman.
I'm Mark Marble.
And this is the LanternCast.
Episode 487.
That's right. What are we talking about tonight?
Something interesting because it's not current. Though I will admit I did skim through, I have it, the Dark Crisis with Hal in it today. So that by itself was not as bad as I expected it to be. Not exactly as advertised either, but it was not as bad as I expected it to be.
I haven't read any of this week's comics yet, so I'll have to check it out.
But the real answer to your question is we're going back in the Wayback Machine to the Silver Age to do Green Lantern number 40.
That's right, one of my favorite issues, and one of my pride and joys that I own. Even though I do own issues before issue 40, so technically, in terms of value, the older it is, the better it is. But this is a key. I think it's fair to say it's a key among keys. Although two of the other issues we'll talk about in a minute are arguably more iconic. I don't know, but this is the story, the secret origin of the Guardians, because and you know what, we'll just get into it. The cover is I personally consider it iconic. It is Hal versus Alan on the cover in front of the Guardians. They're telling Hal to turn in his power ring because Alan Scott is replacing you. And he's like, well, nobody's replacing me unless they can beat me in a duel. And it's the secret origin of the Guardians. This is a great issue in that it is not only an iconic Silver Age issue, but it's one of a lot of Silver Age issues were split in two. There are two different stories in there. This is all one story in several parts. The story is by John Broome, art by Gil Kane and Sid Green. We open up with the way a lot of Silver Age issues did, a sort of almost reimagining of the conflict that's shown on the cover, with just a little bit more detail, as Alan takes a shot at Hal. And in the main issue, we open up at a come as you were party in Gotham that Alan Scott is attending over on Earth 2, because there's some exposition needed here. At this point, they define what Earth 2 is. There's a lot of information about info dumping about who Alan and Doiby Dickles is. But as Alan leaves the party to get in the cab with Doiby, they see a meteor coming down, and Alan goes after it, tries to stop it from landing in Gotham, and it passes straight through his ring energy and disappears. Below him, Doiby, who is following Alan, crashes into a tree, and as Alan goes to help him, he suddenly realizes that his ring is effective now on wood. He decides the very first thing he's got to do now is he has to alert his Green Lantern counterpart on Earth 1, Hal Jordan, because maybe a similar situation could rid him of his ring's weakness to the color yellow. So he flies over to Earth 1, meets up with Hal, tries to show him this power that he can now affect wood with his ring, but it no longer works. Hal is intrigued by the story nevertheless, so he suggests that Alan ask his ring to tell him what happened. And the ring espouses to both Hal and Alan that the meteor that they thought was crashing down was not actually a meteor. It was actually a piece of energy that's been circling the universe. So the ring says, well, to tell you this story, I got to go back. And we get a recap of the origins of the Guardians. We learn that they were once called Owens, their very advanced intellect, their immortality, so on and so forth. And then the story we all know at this point is now told for the first time ever. And Krona is saying that he's going to probe the beginning of all things, but they warn him that it shouldn't be done. If the legend is that, it'll destroy the universe, but Krona says, bah humbug, and opens his window to see a hand forming with a universe in its palm. At this moment, the system in front of him explodes, and at this point, according to the comic, evil is released into the universe. The Guardians decide to, because where they're immortal, they decide to disembody Krona into just energy and have him cycle and circle through not just this universe, but all universes. Then they decide, because one of their kind released evil into the universe, they're going to create this thing called the Green Lantern Corps, and Bob's your uncle. Then we follow Krona's story as this disembodied energy, and he knows as he's heading towards Earth 2 that Alan is down there, and that maybe I can get him to respond to me or something like that. So he turns himself into this, he looks like a meteor, so he's going down. And really, when Alan's ring scanned that meteor for that brief instant, Krona shot down into Alan's ring and decided that he needed to get to Earth 1, and the best way to do this was to remove Alan's weakness to wood, because of course he would go tell his counterpart Green Lantern over on Earth 1, right? Like, that's the first thing he's going to think of. I don't know how Krona was smart enough to figure that logic leap out.
Oh, the Silver Age. Makes perfect sense if you don't stop and use any common sense at all.
Excuse me. So then he loses contact with him at the point, because that's why the weakness to wood was no longer there when Alan showed up. Krona had left the ring. Hal goes, oh, I need to tell the Guardians. And the Guardians like, we were eavesdropping the whole time. We got it. We're coming over there. So you guys are going to set up some headquarters, and you guys wait for us, and we're going to fight this together. So because Krona is now on Earth, he's like the rage entity, I guess, being birthed in the center of in the center of our planet or something in the Red Lantern series. Krona just being on Earth, I guess, radiates evil and destruction. So Coast City starts going batshit with tidal waves and earthquakes and a mountain bending over to spit rocks in a stream at the city, and tornadoes and all kinds of stuff. So Alan and Hal are busy with all of this. In the meantime, the Guardians finally reach back out and go, okay, we're here, and you don't have to worry about any more of those disasters, because like Krona being over on your Earth just causing destruction, us Guardians on Earth are going to cancel that out. So you don't have to worry about it for now. That convenient Silver Age shit. I don't know why. I've never seen the Guardians exude this kind of power before. Our mere presence will calm things down. Anyways, Krona has set up his viewfinder again on Earth, and what he has done is he knocked Alan's consciousness out of his body and put himself in it. He shows up with Hal when they meet up with the Guardians, and he is able to exert his mental influence on his brethren and ask them to ask Hal to give up his ring, which is what we saw on the cover. And Hal then says, hell no, we're not doing this unless you can beat me in a fight. So now it's Hal versus Krona in Alan's body. As you can imagine, Alan pretty much wipes the floor with him, Krona. And this is where things get kind of fuzzy. I don't know what happened. Krona gets back in his own body. He's starting the experiment again. Alan is in his own ring or in Hal's ring, and then guides guides Hal back to the fight. He takes on Krona again, but Krona in his own body, and he uses the ring, which shoots Alan's energy, I guess, back into his own body, so Alan can join the fight again, and they take out Krona, and the Guardians are now conscious again. I don't know. That whole thing was kind of messy. It didn't read as for a Silver Age, oddly enough, it didn't read as clearly as some of the rest of it did.
I think he was just disembodied, and he reached out and he contacted Hal through his ring, because actually when you get to the very end, it's just like going through the motions at the end after Hal actually with the Guardians, and Hal takes out Krona, and the Guardians finish him off and kind of reestablishes the status quo. But then you just have a little conversation. Well, thank you for putting my energy, my soul back in my body, Hal. Let's go get some pancakes.
I don't know. Much like the Guardians' mere presence calming down all sorts of calamity on the planet, I had no idea that Hal just had the ability to recall souls to bodies.
Actually, I think it was Alan's ring. I'm reading at the end. The idea of switching power rings so that I had the ring from your body instead of my own was an inspiration, Alan.
Okay. So. And the spirit of Alan added his willpower to Hal, and that's how they were able to temporarily overpower Krona, which is all they needed to distract him, so his concentration is broken, which releases the Guardians, and then they can take on Krona.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Because earlier on, Hal goes, summoning up all my willpower, Alan, to command my ring to absorb your mind into my. It's confusing. It doesn't really change the gist of the story anyway. That they were basically all in one body using one ring until they could beat Krona and put everything back together again.
I don't know. Alan flies back to his universe, which great, he can do that. I don't remember exactly how he figured it out that his ring would allow him to do this, because so we might as well say it. Flash 123, Flash of Two Worlds. That's our first multiverse interaction with Jay and Barry running towards the viewer. That came out in July of 1961. The next big happening was Justice League number 21, which came out on June 20th, 1963. That's the iconic cover of the Justice League holding hands around a table in a crystal ball, and out pops the smoke, and in that is the JSA. That's Crisis on Earth 1. Then we have this issue, which is August 26, 1965. I argue that this is I think it's more important than Justice League 21, Justice League 21. I argue it's as important as Flash 123, because Flash 123 gives us the multiverse, and it's almost not worth anything without the multiverse's entire origin, which happens here. Now, here they say, Krona released evil, but Crisis, I thought, I liked the retcon. Technically it's a retcon, right? That what Krona really did was split the universe and cause the antimatter universe to happen, which I guess technically you could define as releasing evil into the world.
Well, as we've talked about before, with Krona, there's been like multiple different versions. There's releasing the evil. There's, like you just said, splitting, and then there was I'm trying to remember if this was in Ganthet's Tale, or whether this was in the Third Law, or whatever. The idea that what Krona really did was, when he looked back and he saw the hand and everything else, that moment basically sucked out a certain amount of energy from the universe. And by sucking out that amount of the energy, that there wouldn't be enough energy left to restart the universe for its next incarnation when the time came. So what the Guardians, part of the reason why the Guardians were really rigid about order and keeping everything strict and go by the book and not trying to use any extra energy as possible, because they believed that they could be that way. They could basically make up for their brethren's own mistake, and all that energy that was lost, they could basically make that up over the course of existence. So when the time came and the universe was ready our universe was ready to be destroyed, and it was ready to reboot itself, there would be enough energy for like another big bang. So there was that possibility too. But or that explanation. So either way, Crona's a dick. I like his weird belt buckle too.
Yeah, I always like the classic costume. I think it's funny.
He's like the leader on steroids with a slightly smaller head.
Yeah, and he's always I don't know why I always think he's like an alien Bruce Wayne or something like he reminds me of Hector Hammond before Hector's head got crazy. Like he's a womanizer, he's real fancy. Like for some reason Krona always I don't think he's handsome, but like there's no other word for it. So like he always looks way more handsome and dapper than all the rest of the Guardians.
And here's the highlight of the episode: Krona pumps Chad's nads.
But I mean, look at him. He's jacked. He's got the open collar. He's got the mustache and everything. He always looks like he's like really putting effort into how he looks. And every time we see the Guardians, even in flashback and stuff like that, when they're not the little blue old Owens or whatever, they all look like geeky little scientist dudes. So I never understood the compulsion for them to like just roid out. Like he looked in some of these panels, the way his stance is, he looks like the guy from those comic book ads back in the day where they're like, the big buff dude is kicking sand on the guy.
Atlas. The Atlas ads. Charles Atlas, right? Charles Atlas.
Yeah. He always looks like the kid he always looks like somebody who's just like more jacked than they need to be. And I never understood why Krona, like, yes, you can make him intimidating just by his intellect and what he's doing here and what he's done with the experiment and all that stuff. But why did you also have to make him physically intimidating? I never understood. He's always been drawn. Think of it. Have you ever seen, even in flashback, another Guardian look as physically intimidating as Krona does?
Probably not. No, because we don't get Guardians even normal, quote unquote, normal size that often to begin with. But you're right, none of them do. But hey, this story also gives you the Owen baby with the blonde hair too.
That's true. What was it? Was it Harupa? That was him, right?
That is a name of a Guardian, yes.
Because I remember when you and I were doing the Secret Origins podcast, when we were on the Guardians of the Universe one, Harupa in flashback looked like Aquaman with really long hair. I think that's the only other time we've seen handsome Guardians. Oh, I remember us joking about that. The flash, like it was almost like it had to be through Harupa's memory of himself, not what reality was. We were making that joke.
Yeah, it does sound oddly familiar.
But what do you think of this in terms of importance? Like I said, like if I were to, first of all, the multiverse is not a new concept scientifically speaking, but I think it's safe to say, based on Marvel and stuff like their publication history, DC kind of pioneered that concept in science fiction, and now it's getting everywhere. I mean, we just had Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, right? So like in terms of importance to multiverse fiction, I would obviously it would be Flash 123, Flash of Two Worlds. I put this second, then Justice League 21, and then like Crisis #1 or something like that, right?
Yeah, I mean they're all kind of in the running here. They're all super important as you're laying the foundation of the multiverse, at least as far as DC goes. This is important. It still remains one of the first Alan Hal team ups. So clearly, from a story perspective, it's not the first, but it does give us Krona, and it establishes early on that Krona's bad news, and it never really changes.
No, I always love this story, and honestly, usually guys, we try to talk about the ads sometimes, but honestly, there's nothing really that compelling in this one. There's your standard stuff of subscribing to DC, and you have things like, I guess, look, the options here. This might be interesting to go through. Army at War, Challengers, Superman, Wonder Woman, The Atom, Bob Hope, Blackhawk, Our Fighting Forces, Unexpected, Lois Lane, Hawkman, GI Combat, Sugar and Spike, that's a callback. Superboy, House of Mysteries, War Stories, Fox and Crow. I don't know what that is. Strange Adventures, Jimmy Olsen, Green Lantern, Brave and the Bold, Metalman, Adventure Comics, Detective Comics, and Action Comics. 10 issues at $1.
Ah, the good old days.
Yeah. So that's cool. But otherwise, it's just ads for Cheerios, for gum. There's really nothing incredibly unique here. Tootsie Roll ads, Tootsie Roll Pop ads, a Palisades amusement park in New Jersey ad advertising 10 additional new rides, Superman on it. But yeah, there's nothing really standoutish here in terms of the ads. But I love it. I love having this issue. The cover looks classic. It's an iconic issue. It's a key issue. It's fun. But in addition to the reason I had mentioned the ads, circling back, the letters column is from 3 issues prior. So I looked at the letters column in Green Lantern 43 to see what the letters call writers would say about this issue. And of the 4, I mean, it's only 4 letters, but a resounding positive reaction. People saying it's the best Green Lantern story told. People being really hyped that the Guardians are here and we learned so much about them because, as one writer says in the letter column, he's talking about it and he says, we haven't really seen them a whole lot since Green Lantern #2. So he's really hoping that they take more center stage. And another letter writer was just talking about all the different reasons that he enjoyed it. And the editor response was actually mentioned Flash 123. And the editor said that their hope was that this issue would be as iconic as that one. Like, it's literally in the letter column of Green Lantern 43. So you got to find that. And another writer points out the similarities of a Christian story in terms of there once was this paradise and someone did something forbidden and evil was released into the world. And the editor confirms that the writer, John Broome, did intend that comparison.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Which is, I think normally these days, probably editors wouldn't respond to something like that, a question like that. But it's interesting that they're like, yeah, you are correct. That was the inspiration behind John Broome making it a, kind of Paradise Lost situation, a Garden of Eden situation. He absolutely was like, yeah, I'm going to tell an Eden story. So that's cool.
Yep, and it works really well.
For sure. All right, what else are we going to talk about tonight?
We have I hesitate to say bookkeeping, but there's some other things from Comic-Con that we didn't really touch upon. Basically some non-Marvel stuff, since we knew there was enough Marvel stuff bookended onto Thor that there really wasn't going to be a lot of room to do anything else. But there are a few things bubbling over, so this is mostly more of your alley, I should phrase. Yeah. So
I've got a list of things here, but did you have anything you wanted to touch on? A lot of my stuffs are more bullet points. There are a couple we can talk about though.
Well, let's go through yours, and then if there's something that pops into my head that you didn't mention that's still in my BB brain, then we can bring it up. But I'm ready to follow your lead on this.
Yeah, I own a Nintendo Switch, and I play it as much as I can, time allowing, chores allowing, stuff like that. But I can really only play certain types of games because I get motion sickness. I've mentioned that before on the show. So I've been really looking forward to the fact that they were going to take all of the previous Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle arcade games, and then the ones from NES and SNES and Genesis, and put them all in what they call the Cowabunga collection. It was going to be available on every platform, PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, PC, everything. They finally gave us a release date, and it is happening at the end of this month. August 30th, the Cowabunga collection drops for everybody on every platform, and I am super stoked for that. They just came out with Shredder's Revenge. Have you heard about this, Mark?
No.
Shredder's Revenge is a spiritual successor to like Turtles in Time. somebody created a brand new 16-bit side scroller 4-player game, so everybody can be each turtle, and it looks like Turtles in Time, but a whole new game in this modern era. And I ordered a physical copy of that. That's going to be here in the next month or two. But now the Cowabunga collection comes out, and I as a side scroller fan who can't play those more modern 3D open world billion camera angle games. This Cowabunga collection of 13 games from the past, plus this new Shredder's Revenge thing I'm gonna have, I am so stoked that this is coming out. Normally I don't talk about gaming, but it's like dropping a catalog on me and saying, here, choose what you want to play, and I am not going to be bored for several months.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I know you like some TMNT, so I thought you might like that.
That is an interesting reveal.
A couple more of the quicker bullet points here. For all the Snyder bros out there still campaigning to restore the Snyderverse, Jim Lee said, and I quote, "I work on the projects that are in development. I think the Snyder Cut was Zack's vision realized, and it was a really satisfying story he told, but there's no plans for additional work on that material." Shut up, Snyder bros. Give it a rest.
Plus, that whole Rolling Stone article didn't help their cause either, whether you believe it or not. The stuff that came out in that article. It's certainly, at the very least, even if a third of what's being tossed at Snyder himself was true about how vindictive he was and how he weaponized social media on purpose to go after Jeff Johns and people that he didn't like, that it's not very positive no matter what. Who knows if it's true? It's, we never know if anything's true in the media anymore, but it's certainly, I almost was going to bring that up at one point for discussion, just because, that was certainly a big thing, that besides the idea of the percentage of people of the release the Snyder Cut that were just, that were just out and out bots that were just doing that. So yeah, it's people need to move beyond it, let it go. I'm sure WB, if they didn't regret it before immediately, they absolutely wish they probably had never gone back and given him the money and the power to do that, because it's been pretty much nothing but a pain in the ass for them ever since they did that. It certainly wasn't worth whatever positive momentum or any kind of subscribers they gained short term for HBO Max. I don't think it was worth all the bullshit that created.
For sure. A couple of other quick bullet points here. The Eisners happened. I only pulled two of the little bits because they're interesting to me based on what I read outside of DC and Marvel. The best continuing series, one was Something is Killing the Children, which both Dan and I are big fans of. Actually, we might talk about it on his YouTube show at some point. Best writer of the year, James Tynion. He does a lot of fantastic work. I encourage you guys to not look at the Eisner winners, look at the Eisner nominees. If you're looking for indie books to read that you think might be a good entry point for you, go look at Eisner nominees, because while best writer James Tynion may have won, other writers like Ram V were also nominated. And Ram V is an I can't not get anything he does sort of writer for me. So just thought I'd mention that. And then the last little quick tidbit, some Sandman stuff came out. I'm really stoked for that. But Gaiman had talked about the artist from the original Sandman series. And he says, when Sandman first started, the TV show, everyone asked me if Dave McKean was the original artist, would do anything, but he had retired formally. This is Gaiman speaking. But I called Dave and said, we're doing the TV show. You have to do something. So every episode will have an in-title sequence, and it's a different sequence for each episode. And Dave McKean, the original artist of Sandman, made it, who's been retired for years.
It is pretty neat, too.
Yeah, some of the choices for casting and stuff like that, we'll see. But I'm stoked for Sandman. It is still curious to me that DC is releasing things on things other than HBO Max. I don't know the decision making behind it. Is it good to diversify where your content is like that, or should you keep it on the platform you own? I don't know. I guess that's a question to figure out in this new era of streaming media. But like, it's still weird to me that they're putting out stuff on Netflix. But whatever.
Yeah, and some of those things you also have to wonder depending how long they were in development, because as we know, a lot of contractual obligations pre-existed before these platforms were launched, which is probably still one of the reasons why some movies end up leaving HBO Max. And because of the contract, a lot of that has to do with the contractual obligations for HBO, because a lot of the content that's still on HBO Max relates to what's actually on HBO. So that comes and goes. Like I think, like they're losing. I think if it's not Godzilla, they're losing. I know they're losing Kong Skull Island. I think at the end of August, and you would think that would be a movie at this point that would just permanently stay.
Yeah.
So that also could be the difference between the way they do their platform versus like Disney Plus, where there's just a platform. It's not like absorbing stuff on a different on regular Disney, and this is Disney Plus. Like HBO Max has, the contractual obligations for HBO, and when something leaves HBO, that means HBO Max is probably going to lose it too. Disney Plus doesn't have to worry about that stuff.
Yeah, I guess when Fox dropped Lucifer and Netflix picked it up, that was cool too. But I guess HBO Max wasn't around at that point. So.
True.
Yeah. All right. So that's my last bit of quick tidbits. Anything else that would possibly generate conversation? We can start. Let's see. We can start with. Okay. So the other one I was thinking, have you heard about the Boom Studios series that Keanu Reeves is helping to write called Berserker?
Very, very, very loosely.
I love Boom Studios, guys. It's one of my favorite indie publishers. I've picked up Berserker since day one. I actually have several different, exclusive variants. So what I'm about to say might make those pretty valuable. They had a whole panel around Berserker, and there's going to be a live action film, a 2-season Netflix anime from the Japanese animation studio Production IG, and they worked on Ghost in the Shell and Eden of the East and stuff like that. So a 2-season Netflix Japanese anime, a live action film, and a novel is being worked on, also in cooperation with Keanu Reeves. They didn't say anything really about the movie. They talked mostly about the animation. Keanu's not even allowed to yet announce the name of the person he's collaborating with for the novel. So they talked about the 2-season anime. Berserker, for those of you who don't know, really super condensed. It's about an immortal god, demigod, not god, named B, just like the letter B, who's 80,000 years old. Think like the story for Vandal Savage. Like, he's a caveman who's lived forever. He now works as an agent of the U.S. government, as a hired hitman sort of killer, carrying out missions and stuff. And he's working with the U.S. government in exchange for their research so that they can help him finally die. And I don't know, man. I don't know if the premise holds anything for you, but the fact that this property didn't just go, okay, we got sold an option for a movie. They went, no, live action movie, Japanese anime, novel. We're doing this whole thing. That's a pretty big IP jump.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I enjoy the series, so I'll probably keep several of my stuff and not sell it. But I may be sitting on a gold mine of variants over here for Berserker #1. And then the other thing, of course, I wanted to talk about, Interview with the Vampire trailer. We both saw it. It was a full trailer this time instead of that quick teaser we got a little while ago that we talked briefly about. But I know that you told me in the past your mom really liked these, so you did have some experience with these books in some way. What did you think of the full trailer?
I like the tone of it. Obviously, you're going to talk about how it relates to the book and things like that. But I think it's just building atmosphere as a period piece, regardless of the period that it's in, that I think it does a good job doing that. I think it helps us. I think it's good establishing the central conflict for people that are completely uninitiated. So I think, yeah, I definitely think this was much better than that teeny tiny snippet teaser thing that they gave us that we saw before. This was much more meat on the bones, no pun intended.
Yeah, aside from story, it production wise, it looked fantastic. It sounded great. The actors seemed to be doing well. I'm not yet sure how I feel about the guy playing Lestat, who I believe the actor's name is Sam Reed. I I don't have a good read on him. I do like the guy who's playing Louis. So we can talk a bit, but we'll talk a bit about that.
That's Grey Worm, right?
Yeah, Jacob Anderson. I buy him as Louis in the context of what they're trying to tell with this version of Interview with the Vampire. Lestat is one of my favorite characters in fiction, so it may just be me putting too high of expectations on the actor, but I still don't know if I buy Sam Reed as Lestat. So we'll see. But otherwise, like I said, production, the camera work, the drama of it all, the intensity, the music, the at least the look of the actors, the quality of the actors, whether or not I buy them as a character is irrelevant. At least they look good doing their job. They seem like they're portraying what the script they were given very well. I think it looked fantastic, and I am excited for it. This is not one of those changes to the story that I think will impact my enjoyment of this. Remains to be seen, but like, I love the look of this. So moving on into the problem with this. In this trailer, Louis puts the year as 1910, the 1900s in New Orleans, early 1900s. The original story of Louis de Pointe-du-Lac was set in 1791. And he was a plantation owner in New Orleans, a man of wealth, a man of means. He was heavily religious. His brother died at a young age. I believe it was his brother, because he goes out to a burial plot to one of his family members. I'm pretty sure it was his brother. He's a man racked with tragedy, with guilt, with those Christian ideas of guilt and atonement and all this. As a matter of fact, in the show description, one of the things they use to describe Louis, it says, what did it say? But Louis' intoxicating new powers come with a violent price, and the introduction of Lestat's newest fledgling, the child vampire Claudia, soon sets them on a decades-long path of revenge and atonement. The word atonement there, that's perfect. Louis is the kind of like the kind of person who would probably feel like the practice of whipping yourself helps, atone for your sins or something like that. Like, that's the kind of picture I get from Louis, that he's a very tragic character who's lost all faith in humanity by the end of his journey. So that's more central to him than 1790s white plantation owner. I can see if you want to give him some of if you still want to keep the core of who Louis is, I can see you putting this, if you're going to cast a man of color in the role of Louis, the 1900s can make sense. The early 1900s can make sense. Putting him in the South makes sense. And his slow death of compassion for the rest of humanity and its capacity to be good could make sense in that setting as well. So I'm not yet convinced that casting a black actor, or he's African Caribbean or something like that, right? I think. Regardless, casting a man of color in the role of Louis de Pointe-du-Lac has to obviously he can't be a plantation owner in freaking New Orleans in the 1790s if he's a man of color. That you can't tell that story. But is that as central to me as that he's a tragic character, bereft of all faith in humanity's capacity to be good? I think that's more important. It remains to be seen what they want to change with all of this. Lestat coming in, he looks evil, but he also looks like he's there's a scene where obviously there's really no preference, I guess, sexual preference when it comes to the Anne Rice's vampires, because they don't use those organs once they're immortal, and whatever. So there's some seduction qualities to Lestat. There's intensity. There's live in the moment. There's we're immortal, we're powerful, we're owed the world sort of mentality. But that was always the problem with Lestat in Interview with the Vampire, is he is always seen as like this agent of chaos and insanity, and it's his way or the highway, and damn everybody else, and all of this stuff, and it's portrayed very well in that 1994 movie. But that's not the Lestat of the other books. Lestat is referred to as like the brat prince. Yes, he's a little bit ego and stuff like that, and ego and flair, and even in this show description they describe him as Louis finds it impossible to resist the rakish Lestat's offer for the ultimate escape. So but the reason was always that Interview with the Vampire was told from Louis's perspective, and that's how Louis saw Lestat. And he exaggerated or even made up some of the stuff that he said in Interview with the Vampire. That's how it's described in the books. So I'm very interested to see what they're going to do with Louis being in the 1900s and how they capture his essence instead of him being in the 1790s. And I'm very interested to see how batshit insane do they make Lestat? Do we keep some stuff to continue this, because AMC has invested not in Interview with a Vampire. They have the rights to the entirety of the Vampire Chronicles, which, according to an article I read earlier today, the entirety of the series have sold more than 80 million copies. So this is a property. A lot of people consider Interview with a Vampire to be one of the most iconic vampire novels, second to Bram Stoker's Dracula. So I'm very interested, because they have to be going beyond just the Interview with the Vampire story. They have to be doing more, whether it's just one more, like the Vampire Lestat, which goes into Lestat's origin, or if they do Queen of the Damned, or if they take it a step further, do Tale of the Body Thief or Memnoch the Devil or any of that other stuff. To do any of that other stuff, your hero is Lestat. So how damned and insane do you make Lestat in this film, or in this series of episodes?
That will be a challenge, depending on what because again, if that's like you said, if you're gonna, and the game plan and everything is with IP these days, so the reality is you would think they would want to flesh things out, and that they would want to do at least mine the other material, even if they have to modify. And that's the danger too. If you modify it too much, you can alienate a lot of the fan base. But you would think, yes, no matter that, they have to walk that fine line. They can't make him, they have to make him appealing. They have to make him relatable on some level, even if that's something that comes along over time. In the beginning, that he may not be as likable, but by the time you get to the end of the what is this for once? Do we know how many episodes this is?
I want to say 13. And
plus, it's not like they have to adapt the entire book in one season.
Oh God, I'm totally wrong. 7.
There's only 7.
7 debut on October 2nd on AMC.
Yeah, so they may not even do the entire book for one. They may only split the book, into different. In their mind, they may be able to get multiple seasons out of the same book anyway. So
I mean, they show Claudia, but they don't show the Theater de Vampire. So that's essentially when Interview with the Vampire ends, is Claudia dies, and then, Lestat and Louis split up, and then we jump forward to the next time he sees Lestat. So if we see Claudia, do you think we see Claudia's death within the 7 episodes? Because if we do, that's relatively the end of Interview with the Vampire.
It's hard to know. I would 7 episodes is not much. So I almost would think they at least want to be able to get at least like two seasons out of at least the first book, but it's hard to know. I haven't.
If they do, then I bet you the end sequence of the final episode, as like your cliffhanger, is Lestat being killed, quote unquote killed, by Louis and Claudia, and they burn him and stuff, and then Louis and Claudia get on a ship to go overseas to Europe.
Yeah, that would seemingly be a very viable cliffhanger, quote unquote. Had to end one season, give you an ending, but yet you know that if it's assuming it's going to continue for a second season, that it just kind of gives you an idea where, figuratively and literally, where they're going to go. So I could see that.
The last thing I wanted to talk about with regards to the interview with the vampire, in terms of my last point on the subject, Esquire.com has an article, Everything We Know About the Interview of the Vampire TV Reboot. It came out today. There's a section in it, and Jones, I believe he's one of the showrunners. Though Jones promises that the series is, quote, more reverential to the book than the 1994 movie, two major changes are in store. Quote, the two most aggressive differences between the book and this is that Malloy, this is Daniel, the man who's interviewing Louis to tell him the story. That's in an interview with the vampire, the human that's interviewing him. His last name is Malloy, Daniel Malloy. Differences between this is that Malloy is much better at his job than in the books, and that some of his primordial version of the Brat Prince has been put back into this. So two big differences other than the timeline. Something is up with Daniel, and that we will see some of that quote unquote primordial Lestat in this. That's the tightrope I'm worried about. Like, you can do that, but do you make him irredeemable? If you do that, we're screwed for the rest of this. You have to like Lestat. And anyways, they say it's the changes to the timeline that we're most excited about. Him with the showrunner revealing the series will focus not on Malloy's first interview with Louis, but a second interview taking place 40 years later. The script is very clear that it's 40-something years later, and Daniel is no longer the boy who was a novice journalist just starting out making tapes of this vampire interview. This is the guy who plays Malloy. Now he's getting a second crack at it. He's been very successful. He's actually on the downside of his career, and this is his last chance to grab the brass ring. It's dangerous, but he wants to go get that story. In the book, Daniel is described as like almost a boy, like he's a very young man. And he's interviewing this vampire in a random room in New Orleans or whatever. Him being older and at the end of his career and circling back for a second time to get Louis' story on tape, that was never there, because Armand, one of the other vampires, turns Daniel into a vampire 9-10 years supposedly after his interview with Louis takes place. So they're not just changing stuff, they're already sort of eliminating future potential characters here, unless somehow Armand takes this guy who's at the end of his life, which these vampires rarely do, and turns him into a vampire when he's in his 70s, 60s, 70s. Because Daniel is a future vampire of the few that remain after Queen of the Damned. So you're eliminating a future potential vampire here from your future stories of adapting future books and stuff like that. I don't know. But yeah. Daniel's not one of those critical vampires. He's just one of a very few that are still around after Queen of the Damned. So like, and he's one of the few made after Queen of the Damned, because the elders that remain make a rule to kind of consult each other, which Lestat ignores completely, of course. But like, it's rare for there to be a new vampire after Queen of the Damned. So to already be getting rid of a potential future vampire, that's interesting to me. But again, Daniel was never like, you wouldn't list him in the top 10, right?
No, I don't think that. I think that would be a fair assessment.
Yeah. So tonight, though, we're just going to end with the news that happened today. Batgirl's canceled. All of it. Everything filmed, the money invested, projects out the window. It's not coming to theaters. It's not even dropping on HBO Max. We're done. Not happening.
The axe of Zaslav strikes again.
We don't know exactly why yet. We don't know any other details, other real details, other than we're done with this project, apparently. So people, of course, can make it about race or gender, or the Snyder Bros going, that's because with everything happening with the Flash, they're going to cancel that, and we're actually going to get Batfleck back instead of Keaton, and whatever. I'm done with that. Not worth my time.
Well, I don't think either one of those they have no relation to each other. Whether Batman's gonna, if Ben Affleck's gonna end up being in Aquaman, that's only because of the delay. They only because of the delay, the whole Flash fiasco was created. The ripple effect. It doesn't mean that. Yeah, I mean because that's because if things had been released properly, Ben Affleck, Michael Keaton would already have been reintroduced because he was supposed to be the Flash, the Batman in the cameo in Aquaman. So now they have to swim upstream and fix this because the Flash, if it ever does come out, ain't coming out the next year.
Yeah. So it irritated me, obviously. Here's my thing with this. Am I mad that Batgirl, the project, is something I'm not going to see now? That's not my main reason for being upset, but I will say I am mad that I'm not going to get a chance to see this project. The actress seems super into the role. She seemed very stoked. She's very pretty. She seemed like she was trying very hard. I did like the costume design. I did like what we were seeing so far of that sort of stuff. And sure, I would love to see a Batgirl project. You know why? Because I'd also love to see a Zatanna project and a Black Canary project and all the other really badass female characters that DC has to offer. Honestly, as much as we know I love DC more than Marvel, duh. So this is not that big of a shock. But personally, I love way more female characters at DC than I do female characters at Marvel. And I am so stoked that any of them could have. Hell, I would love a Renee Montoya movie. Like I'd love more women characters in the DCU, and I would love for Batgirl to be the second entry, successful entry after Wonder Woman of a female-led DC film, and like just open up that floodgates for us. And I'm mad that we're not going to get to see that. But my primary reason for being upset about this is it really feels like Warner Brothers Discovery is fucking rudderless. They're rudderless, and the decisions that they do make are slapstick at best. And it's like, it's not just that DC is occasionally screwing up and we just prefer they do WXY instead of XYZ. It's like a night and day difference than Marvel. And you can say what you want about Marvel content, whether you like it or not, whether you agree with the decisions or not, the casting or whatever. But Marvel is actually scheduling things out years in advance. It feels like they're a little bit rudderless on where they're going with their story because we don't know. But let's be honest, at least they have some sort of plan, because if nothing else, they're laying a timeline out in front of us. And they have no problem, because it's attached to Disney, axing people from projects and replacing them if they fall out of social favor or have some legal issues or whatever. Like, whether you agree with cancel culture or whatever, at least freaking Marvel is making a decision. Marvel Disney is making a decision. Ezra seems to be going off the fucking deep end, and what is going to happen with them is neither here nor there. But way too much shit has come out about Ezra, and DC still hasn't officially made a fucking decision. And that's crazy. We've got a schedule for Marvel for years in advance, but DC can't even stick to a release that was supposed to happen this year. It feels, I am so mad and I'm mad as a fan. Like, I'm trying very hard not to rail against the system and insist that DC make changes and stuff, because then at some point you're walking that tightrope to just becoming a Snyderverse, bro. And that's not what I want to be. But I love DC, and I am pissed that we are fucking failing to get any of this fantastic multiverse of characters and stuff. I'm turning around and I'm looking at to my left at this shelves upon shelves of Deadman and Black Lightning and Brave and the Bold and Green Lantern and Flash and all this. I love so much of this universe, and it's fucking infuriating that they're wasting opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to get this shit out in a meaningful way like Marvel has. And I don't mean you have to copy the Marvel method. I just mean getting it out there and making people love it who didn't love it before. And I've said this before. Sometimes I literally imagine that the multiverse is in fact real. And scientifically speaking, it seems like that every day. Regardless, I imagine that the multiverse is real and that I could someday go to the Earth where DC is the one getting the shit right with the multimedia representation and Marvel's the one failing, because I want to see the world building of the Justice League. I want to see them just branch out, because you know what's better? You know what's better than the Avengers? Oh, I honestly don't know. Fantastic Four, maybe something like that. But you know what's better than Justice League sometimes? Fucking Justice League Dark. Or the Shadow Pact. Or, like, there's so much. The Seven Soldiers of Victory, the JSA. There's so much other shit in DC that is filled with so much potential. And shit like this that just seems like they have no idea what they're doing and have no plan and never did pisses me off.
Here's the thing. There may have been a plan, but first of all, you have to understand that now that it's Warner Brothers Discovery, there's different people steering the ship now that threw all these projects against the wall a few years ago. These people haven't, they didn't have anything to do with these projects that were greenlit, and so they're trying to I think legitimately they're trying to clear up a lot of the mess that was left for them. There's a lot of crap that was left for them. Now, by all accounts, whether it's true or not, because we don't know, because we didn't see it, that this movie is supposed to be a shit show. That based on the test showings that they made for Batgirl, it was horrible. Horrible. Horrible as in the magic word, which I thought of before when you used it when you were talking about Lestat, irredeemable. That the project was irredeemable, as in considering as close to being finished as this project is, to fix it, to make it so it wouldn't be a total disaster. I guess you'd put it on the level of maybe the Josh Trank's Fantastic Four, that you can polish that turd as much as you want, but it's still going to be a disaster, which kind of tells you, it makes you think you probably believe that it's got to be really bad, because you would think, since they've already invested like around $70 million or something in this, that even if you released it.
I heard the figure was 90.
As I was saying that, maybe it is 90, maybe it was 90, maybe I was thinking something else was 70, but either way, that 70 to 90, as is, maybe 70 was invested, but 90 was the total the amount of money allotted for the entire budget, including to finish it, was 90, and they've only done 70 so far. Doesn't matter. You would think if it wasn't a complete shit show, that releasing it would at least get some money back in the theaters. And then you put it on HBO Max and whatever. It's also telling because of the fact that, yes, conceptually, this was weird to begin with. I mean, you had Michael Keaton was going to be Batman in this, but yet J.K. Simmons was going to be Commissioner Gordon, and yet Barbara Gordon's going to be black. And so it's like you almost think you'd want Jeffrey Wright to be Commissioner Gordon if you were going to go that route with Barbara Gordon. Not that it necessarily obviously means that's the only way you can get to that result, but it's just like they're picking and choosing. So it seems on one level, I know it's related, it's multiverse related, but it seems like an odd choice structurally anyway. But this is one of those repercussions. Again, this is a fallout to a certain extent about what's going on with the Flash, and this could be a bad sign. This could be a bad sign that even though the difference is supposedly the Flash is supposed to be actually good, the movie's actually supposed to be good. It's just that you have a complete train wreck as your star, and I don't have a lot of doubt he's getting the boot. They just have to figure out when they're going to do it. I think the old regime just let him get away with stuff, him, her, it, whatever he wants to call himself now. But Ezra Miller got away with way too much crap. And again, these double standards are what people hate. You can can Johnny Depp over something, but that this big track record of all the stupid shit Ezra Miller does, and they give him a pass. It's a pass. This may not bode well for whether we are going to see the Flash movie. I think we will, probably because it's supposed to be good. But it would really suck if Michael Keaton's whole return as Batman gets completely shelved, or unless they decide they're just going to because I find it difficult to believe that this regime is going to spend the money it would take to reshoot the Flash with somebody else being the Flash, because by all accounts, Ezra Miller isn't just playing one character in that movie. Ezra Miller is supposed to be playing several characters in that movie. So it isn't just, just kind of professionally deep fake his face in a few scenes. Like, he's supposed to be multiple characters in that movie. So that's not an easy thing to just sub out one character and do some reshoots for. But I do think this is fallout, potentially has fallout from the Ezra Miller Flash situation as well. And I do think WB is trying to get their crap together. I think the whole idea of, hey, let's do this movie, kind of like the way in a way what they're trying to do with the comic books. It's like, oh, we really don't care about continuity. We can tell this story that takes place here in this universe at this time, and that's a recipe for friggin' disaster. And having no coherent, I mean, if you kept stuff separately, you could do it. It's when you do the intermingling, which is the in thing with the multiverse, and that's probably why they've gotten themselves into trouble. So, but I get where you're coming from. I think it is pretty sad that it's like the more things change, the more they stay the same. DC the WB DC, no matter who is calling the shots, for everything they get right, for everything like the Peacemaker show, which was better than anybody would have ever expected it to be. You get a lot of movies and a lot of projects, and then you have the bad luck, if you will. Even though, to be fair, the Aquaman thing, they could have avoided the problem with Amber Heard, because they kind of knew that she wasn't that imperative to the first one anyway. They could have recast that role. That was their own fault. That was short-sightedness. They could have avoided that situation.
Give me Emilia Clarke.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Nobody would have cared at all, just because we know the natural chemistry between Jason and Emilia Clarke. People would have been happy to see that in a heartbeat. They could have solved that problem. So that is their own fault, because Amber Heard didn't have much personality in that movie anyway. They could have recast it. No, that would have been fine. They created that problem. The Flash thing, that project was just cursed from how many years it took us to even get to that point where they made the movie. And then you find, and then oh yeah, Michael Keaton's back, which was the coolest thing. And then like I said, people talk like this movie's fantastic. The people who have seen it, it's great. But what are you going to do with it? I mean, it's just.
It happened today. We had to talk about it as we record this. I don't know. The curse of our podcast, outside of us being able to correctly pronounce names on the first go, is that every time we talk about breaking news sort of shit, 2 days later, not even a day later, some new shit comes out. So we might hear tomorrow about Flash being canceled. We might hear more projects like Blue Beetle or the Zatanna show, or our 6-year waiting Green Lantern movie that we heard was supposed to be happening in the works, so we still haven't heard anything about.
The show is what I would be concerned with. The show is much more of a Danger Will Robinson situation in my mind than the movie, because the movie I don't think has come anywhere close to ever going into. But the show we know was supposed to be in pre-production, and the show was supposed to be coming soon. So if it's way over budget or they think the scripts suck, yeah, I have no doubt WB will pull the plug on this.
Yeah, so fingers crossed Green Lantern, the show, at the very least, doesn't get canceled. But it would be, along the same lines as I'd love to see it. It'd be a loss if we didn't get Blue Beetle or Zatanna or those other projects too. So,
well, Blue Beetle is filming. If it's not done, it's in production. So the only way that wouldn't see the light of day again would be if it's a real cluster. I mean, this project, by all accounts, I mean, this thing is filmed. So situations like this are out of the ordinary. It's like the Flash situation. That's unparalleled, the problem they have with that. They have this complete movie that's supposed to be so critical to where they were going in the DCEU, and yet because of the friggin' idiot that they've hitched their wagon to, that's a big problem for them. So Blue Beetle, the odds are Blue Beetle will see the light of day. I am surprised that they at the moment they have no plans to release this even on HBO Max, but that's got to tell you there's got to be some serious issues with this. Or while most of all the shooting is done, there still would cost so much more money to finish the post-production on it that they have no desire to spend any more money than they've already spent on a project they think is just destined not to be good. But yeah, it's tough though. It is an odd situation.
Yeah, it's extremely frustrating to me, and needed to vent that frustration because I'm pretty furious at DC right now because I remember, look, I know it's dated and you can even give it problems if you want to, but sometimes I rewatch that first Christopher Reeve Superman movie, and the feeling you get watching that movie, if you can recapture the feeling you got when you first saw that movie, if you as a DC fan or as a Superman fan, there was this endless possibilities to the feeling that film invoked for a DC fan. And man, I'd love to feel that way again. I want to believe I can fly. I don't know. Whatever.
I hear you. There's a chance. There's a chance that something good will come out of this mess. But the Flash thing concerns me a lot, just because because Michael Keaton to me was always the draw in that movie, and the fact that now that we're losing this project where Michael Keaton was involved, that maybe even though it's no fault of Michael Keaton's or even what WB would prefer, they're going to have no choice. I still think we'll end up seeing the Flash. I just don't. I think maybe they'll figure, hey, if we just make it clear that we're cutting ties with this guy, that we'll be okay by the time it comes out. But it is a shit show, especially the idea of promoting this, because you can't put them out there to be doing interviews and talking about this, because you know what people are going to be asking about.
Yeah.
So, but keep your fingers crossed. I would like to see it just because I want to see Michael. I would like to see Michael Keaton, and I would like to see what that movie's about. But
yeah,
maybe.
All right, guys. That's going to do it for tonight. We'll talk to you guys later. Just yes, the review of Green Lantern Beware My Power will be coming soonish. All right, I've seen it. We may have to wait till it hits HBO Max. We don't know, but we're aware. We'll be doing it soon. So if people want to reach out to us about their thoughts on Green Lantern 40 or anything we've talked about tonight, or give their advanced opinions on Green Lantern Beware My Power for when we eventually do that episode, how can they do so?
Which the word on the street is most people don't like it. It's just varying degrees of how much you don't like it. Very few people have said, "Oh my God, it's great." Some people have, but you're always going to have some people say, I'll be on either side of the extremes on anything. It's true. LanternCast.com. Email is lanterncast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, #GeoCast. Track us down there. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. Please leave us positive reviews on all platforms you listen to us on. Last but not least, voicemail or text us at 708-LANTERN, 708-LANTERN, and let us know what you think.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.